James Comer, who is like, a dog with a bone, my goodness, he's like Biden's worst nightmare. He has been trying to gather as much evidence as he possibly can. And now he's making the point that thanks to these new bank records, they may really have something pretty substantial here. Of course, the big question becomes, can they actually get enough people to sign off on an impeachment? This might have gotten to the tipping point. I mean, because this is pretty significant. Again, I'm going to play this for you. And I think it's worth just sort of understanding here what really is at stake. I mean, this is the Biden presidency. And by the way, presidency, be careful what you wish for, right? Be careful what you wish for, because my gosh darn it, if they're successful, that does mean we're going to be looking at, I believe, Kamala Harris as our vice president. So that would not necessarily be a good thing. Right. Anyway, let's go out to him right now. This is, I think I got it. Shall we? Okay, let's go to Comer.
President Joe Biden
Voila.
claimed there was an absolute wall between his official government duties and his family's influence peddling schemes. This was a lie. President Joe Biden claimed his family didn't receive money from China. This was a lie. President Joe Biden claimed he never spoke to his son, Hunter Biden, about the Biden's family's shady business dealings. This was a lie. Now, Hunter Biden's legal team and the White House's media allies claim Hunter's corporate entities never made payments directly to Joe Biden. We can officially add this latest talking point to the list of lies. Today, the House Oversight Committee is releasing subpoenaed bank records that show Hunter Biden's business entity, Owasco PC, made direct monthly payments to Joe Biden. This wasn't a payment from Hunter Biden's personal account, but an account for his corporation that received payments from China and other shady corners of the world. At this moment, Hunter Biden is under an investigation by the Department of Justice for using Owasco PC for tax evasion.
Owasco, that's the company to remember here, guys.
And based on whistleblower testimony, we know the Justice Department made a concerted effort to prevent investigators from asking questions about Joe Biden. I wonder why. The more we learn, it appears the Justice Department was trying to cover up for the Bidens until brave IRS whistleblowers came forward and a federal judge rejected the sweetheart plea deal. Payments from Hunter's business entity to Joe Biden are now part of a pattern revealing Joe Biden knew about, participated in, and benefited from his family's influence peddling schemes. When Joe Biden was
James Comer
he spoke
really coming out with some explosive stuff there. My goodness. September 17th, 2018, October 15th, 2018, November 15th, 2018. So a succession of these payments, September, October, November, being received by Joe Biden's bank account. And it was coming from, according, again, to the House Oversight Committee, this company, Owasco, which, by the way, is being investigated by the Justice Department for tax violations. Tax violations because, I don't know, you know what? Like, if you're going to do a whole bunch of foreign lobbying and make some $24 million as it is alleged off of that foreign lobbying, you might want to pay your taxes. You might want to register as a foreign agent. Just saying, right? Just saying. Anyway, so all of these payments were going in. Now, it wasn't a ton of money. It looks like it was like some under $2,000, but they were just sort of religious payments. And the explanation will most likely be, of course, that, it was just, Hunter paying off his car loan. It's all just like, when Joe got that $40,000 from his brother, he was just paying off a house loan. That didn't come from China. Well, not according to the Democrats, but according to James Comer, that $40,000 that somehow appeared in Joe Biden's account, he believes that that's also tied to China. That wasn't about a loan repayment, brother to brother. That was about what's called the family business. Listen.
Joe Biden benefited from his family's influence peddling scheme.
Do we have more? A little more?
Joe Biden benefited from his family's influence peddling scheme.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I thought that one was a little bit longer. That was what you call a real short. Anyway, James Comer was actually on Fox a while back, maybe about a month and a half ago or so, saying that this $40,000 repayment, quote unquote repayment, was really not a repayment. This was money that was coming from China. So like all this stuff is starting to add up. Oh, I got the exact number. Those payments, those were loan payments for a truck apparently coming from Owasco and going into dad's account, $1,380. Kind of just a weird number. They get all kinds of weird stuff going on. I mean, how many different LLCs, how many different darn SARs did they get? SARs being the suspicious activity reports. I told you guys about that a while back. In other words, it's kind of troubling when you have 70-something SARs reports. Like banks really just don't give them out that often. It might be a big deal if you had one or two. But to have 70 plus SARS reports, that's like a whole other league. And that's where Hunter Biden was residing, in that whole other league, literally in more ways than one. So now you see James Comer, who's just, as I mentioned earlier, like a dog with a bone. He's like not going to let this rest. But kudos to him, because you know what? This is complicated stuff. And tracking down these financial records, it's not easy. So he's going through all this, and he's got to basically get all this stuff, and he's got to get Treasury to give it. I mean, do you think Treasury's like willingly turning this stuff over? Is the White House willingly turning this stuff over? Are the banks willingly turning it over? It's not necessarily like he's got people cooperating, which is why this may have to progress to an actual impeachment. This is what you call an impeachment inquiry. So it's formal in that it's an inquiry. And the question is, does this actually help get it to the tipping point? I suspect there will be naysayers that say, oh, you know what? It was only $1,200 and some odd dollars, $1,280. They were truck repayments. We don't really care. But, you know, you combine this with everything else that was going on. According to the House Oversight Committee, $24 million is what they have uncovered coming from foreign nationals and going to various members of the Biden family through these LLCs. Who knew politics paid? Apparently it pays, and it pays big. If you know the right people, that's the thinking here. So at this point, when these payments came through, Joe Biden was not in office. He was not vice president. He had not declared his campaign for the presidency. So this would have been, as I said, in fall of 2018. But we all knew what was happening, right? We all knew where this was going. I'll tell you, this is a big story. This is a big story. As much as they want to go after Trump for everything, it's amazing to me how they just look the other way. If it wasn't for a judge who was like, I don't think I can sign off on this. If it wasn't for a couple of people at the IRS who said, wait a second, this doesn't look right. You know what? We might not have even known any of this. And that's the way they wanted it. Don't forget what happened with Twitter. Don't forget what happened with Hunter Biden's laptop. That was just Russian misinformation. Remember, fed to you courtesy of Rudy Giuliani. That's what you wanted. They wanted you to think. And yet you unravel this thing and it gets pretty darn messy, does it not?